The 15th of July. This is Moving Home with Charlie. I'm Charlie Lambden, and today I'm doing my same as I do every single month, the debunking of Rightmove's least helpful thing that it does. Rightmove's website, it's very helpful. It's quite useful, informative, not perfect, but overall it's a very convenient tool. But Rightmove's monthly, what it refers to as a house price index, when actually it's got nothing to do with actual house prices and it's only based on asking prices, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, contributing factor to standoff. Sorry about that. Bit meta hearing myself coming back. Anyway, Rightmove's monthly asking price index is arguably the single biggest contributing factor to transaction volume stagnation, because it stokes price expectations, not only with sellers, but also with agents. It's used by the media, and asking prices, as I will explain in this video, again, bear no relation to actual sold prices. It really does feel like Groundhog Day when I do this every single month. Nevertheless, let's have a look at this month's. Let's see what we can actually take apart from this, because even their own headline is unhelpful, as I will show you straight away. Let's get it on the larger part of the screen here. So they are saying that the average new seller asking price has dropped by 0.4%, or £1,600. Now, as you'll see in a minute when I scroll down to the breakdown, that is not true for anybody. Actually, first-time buyer average asking prices have gone up, and all the other ones have gone down a lot more than that, one by less, one by more. Nothing has moved for 0.4%. The overall average figure, as ever, is completely unhelpful. But that's why, and I've linked to this PDF below so you can go and look through yourself and see which regions affect you. That is why it's so important to go beyond the headlines if you actually want to know. So they're saying the monthly average asking price has come down 0.4%. They're saying the average asking price is 0.4% higher than a year ago. And the number of sales being agreed is 15% above the same period last year. Now, please understand, this is, if you only remember one thing from this video about Rightmove's house price index, is that it excludes almost everything that's on the market, and it only includes properties listed in the last 28 days or last month, thereabouts, and it only includes their initial tippy-top asking price, and it excludes any price reductions that happen during that month. So not only do these figures exclude most of the, in fact, all the properties that have been on the market for more than 1 month, it just completely ignores them. They have absolutely no bearing on this house price index figures. And all of the multiple price reductions that are happening in that data set have zero input into this monthly publication by Rightmove. Not only that, but it is newly asking prices. It is not sold prices, or even the asking prices when things are sold. And it actually excludes a lot of sellers. What they do is they start with a high price for the first 2 weeks and then they lower it after a couple of weeks. It excludes those. Okay. So it couldn't be any higher if it tried. And that's why their average actual figure, here we are, of £373,000 is almost £100,000 higher than the Land Registry's average UK house price. Why does this happen, you might be asking? Well, because most, not all, but most, and especially larger agents, rely on out-competing each other on how much money they can get for your house. And they tempt you into it, and they make you believe it, and then they make you sign a long sole agency contract, so you are then stuck with them for up to 6 months as they leave their house, your house, on their shelf, gathering dust, not selling, with no viewings happening. And actually, straight after this live stream, I'm going to hang up and then start a new live stream, because I've got a case study from a seller who has given me the full details of their situation and what a nightmare it's been and how they try to avoid the situation, but they're in it anyway, because I want you to understand what the market's really like out there. Now, if we dig just not even beyond page one, but in page one and look at these numbers, what you can see here is, okay, the overall average asking price is minus 0.4% compared to last month. Fine. But when they break this down by what they call market sector, and they exclude Inner London here, they're saying that first-time buyer asking prices have actually gone up a couple of £100. So for any first-time buyer seeing this headline and thinking that asking prices are coming down, no such luck. And you are the largest number of buyers by demographic, but no, the headline does not apply to you. Second steppers have come down by 0.1% or about £300, right? And top of the ladder has come down by a whopping 1.3% in 1 month, which is about £8,000 there, nearly £9,000. Right, it's dropped from just under £690,000 to £681,000. Okay, that's a £9,000 drop in the average asking price of newly listed so-called top of the ladder properties on Rightmove. Now, this feeds into the downsizing story that we're seeing. More and more people downsizing, creating competition for first-time buyers and second steppers as people sell their larger homes to downsize to a cheaper home. They want to get rid of their mortgage because of high interest rates, or maybe they want to release some equity to help their kids buy, or whatever it might be. Lots of downsizers. And there you are. I mean, that is pretty much confirming that trend. And the other thing everyone needs to understand when looking at Rightmove's asking price index is that asking prices are the very, very last thing to reflect a fall in actual prices. All right. So when you've got asking prices coming down and they've said that it was unexpected for this time of year, that is quite an unusual thing. Let's just have a look at what the asking price trend has actually done. So this is the average asking price trend. And again, they aren't explicit here about what numbers this includes or excludes, but we can only assume that it's, again, just newly listed asking prices. And you can see there that it's been gradually creeping up since November, but it's now flatlined and actually started to come down. Let's have a look at some regional changes. Sorry, this is the monthly trend, the percentage monthly change in average asking prices. And again, after they came down quite a lot in November, December, they then started, the asking prices were going up. But even that trend, if you look at it, it's been coming down, 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 down. And I suspect will continue on its downward trend for the rest of this year. Even the asking prices, could be wrong. Average stock per agent. So you compare that with January. Just since January, it was 49 properties per agent. It's now 61 properties. That's 12 up. That's almost 25% more property on the market than 6 months ago. That is a big, big increase in 6 months. 25% increase in stock, available stock. The average time to secure a buyer, and this is a bit of good news. It's tiny, but it's good news. The average time to secure a buyer has trickled down from, and this is national, from 60 days to 59 days. But there's an important point I want to make on this, right? Do not think that that means it's going to take you 59 days to find a buyer if you are a seller, because this is the average, and it's a game of two halves. It's a tale of two halves, this, because what you've got is intelligently priced, realistically priced properties who are finding a buyer in 28 days, and everyone else who's taking 3, 4, 5 months to find a buyer. That's what's really happening. This is, again, where averages are not helpful, okay? You've got motivated sellers using good agents who are pricing correctly and getting stuff sold, and stuff is selling. And they're doing it, they're finding a buyer in a month, right? 28 days. And that's good. That's what you should expect if you get a good agent. But offset that average with going the other way, and you're talking about three months or more for everyone who overprices their home. And again, I want to talk about how even some sellers who've been very careful to try and not overprice their homes are still finding themselves falling victim to the overpricing that's happening. And it's not just the conscious and deliberate overpricing, it is subconscious and unintentional overpricing that's happening as an unintended consequence of this index. So frustrating. Let's just keep going. So let's have a look at the regions now. Now, interestingly, Scotland has had an almost 1% drop in its average asking price of £195,000. So that's nearly £2,000 off the average asking price in Scotland. But again, there will be a market breakdown by sector, which will be different. So it could be up or down depending on which part of the sector you are. The Northeast has seen an increase of 0.5%. Yorkshire and Humberside down. This is on the monthly, right? The monthly change. But come down to the south of the country and look how many pink or red bits there are. It's and these are asking prices, and this is very unusual. Rightmove gears this index to show that everything's up, and record prices, as they were just a month ago, talking about record prices, which makes sellers think, record prices? The market must be great. No, horribly misleading and horribly self-destructive to the moving industry. London boroughs, again, this wild change by borough, which fluctuates between 5.6% annual change in Newham this month to minus 3.5% annual change in Tower Hamlets. But honestly, and this is 3 months of data as well they use there. So again, in London, it fluctuates wildly. There's no London overall trend. You got to look by borough. You got to look at by property type. But there we are. That's Rightmove's unhelpful monthly contribution to the housing market. Right. Do we have any questions here? Hello, guys. Tina Fey, Tufail, Reflex Switch. Yeah, says, hi, Charlie. I'm planning on buying in Cornwall later this year. Lots more top and ladder properties on big reductions and lots of second home holiday lets coming at high prices. Yep. Richard Natcher says, are you feeling this is a reaction to the election and may bounce back once there is more confidence in the new government? No. I think there's been a tiny bounce of confidence in the new government, but that's going to evaporate like a fart in the wind very quickly, because I don't think the new government is going to do very much, but I hope to be wrong about that. And I mean, this is obviously from data from before the election. It's national. You know, if you break it down by Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales, they would all have different stories as well. You break it down by London, it's got a different story. I put a post out on X yesterday showing how in prime central London, prices per square foot are down by as much as 18% over the last 10 years. That was South Kensington. It varies a bit. And that's before taking into account inflation. And taking into account inflation, that's South Kensington down by 50% per square foot in real terms. So don't believe anyone that says prices always go up and they double every 10 years. It's not true. It's just not true. It might have been true in the past. It's no longer true. Caroline Saunders says, hi, Charlie. Wales is a lot worse than Rightmove is saying. Prices have sunk like a stone and very little is even going onto the market. Yeah. The RICS report that came out last week actually showed they were expecting some prices positivity in Wales. Who knows? Barry Brown says, friends and family are struggling to sell in London at the moment, on and off the market for 6 to 12 months. Sellers are a bit delusional. So there is no single housing market in terms of trying to observe what's actually happening. There are thousands of micro markets. Even in each location, you've got a different market for houses than you have for flats. You've got a different market for freehold than you have for leasehold. It's just a right old mix-up. But the only generalization that's true is that first-time buyers are finding themselves, first of all, not being prepared to pay the prices that a lot of sellers are asking, number one. And number two, coming into competition with downsizing buyers. So at the first-time level, to a greater or lesser extent around the country, house prices have not come down as much as they have at the higher level. But there is no index that shares that information. So the big falls at the higher end of the market in most areas, and yes, there are always exceptions if you've got an absolute unicorn of a property in an amazing location where there's always a waiting list of people with cash to buy. Yes, there will be some exceptions. But overall, especially in the Southwest, more and more big houses. I was talking to people just over the weekend who were trying to sell in Devon saying, tumbleweed, just nothing. Been on the market for a few months, 0 viewings. And that's people actually in the industry as well. I want to show you, just by way of comparison, and this is apples and apples to an extent, because it is asking prices. Let me share this with you as well. This is the best. So this is from my website, Best Agent. And the big difference between this and the Rightmove site data, or the asking price data, is that this is the whole of the market that we can find. It's not just new stuff, it's everything including new stuff, although this is as of the 8th of July, so about a week ago. And we've separated it out because to me it just makes logical sense to do so. 1 second. Oh, I can never get this bit right. There we go. And this is for England only. So this is not the Rightmove figures of the whole of the UK. This is England only. It doesn't exclude London. And I actually show you here the total number of homes included in the sample. All right. So there are 86,000 homes in England showing as sale agreed or under offer or sold subject to contract. Any of those three, it's the same thing, right? It's a property where the seller has accepted an offer, but the deal has not yet exchanged. It's going through the process and it may or may not fall through. This is publicly available, and this shows the asking prices that they're currently showing whilst showing as under offer, not the actual agreed price yet. That's coming the exchange price. By the way, the exchange price index, which is the third line down there, which some of you will know about, big progress on that. That's been undergoing the sort of metamorphosis from a test index into a live full-time index. And we'll be re-releasing it to those of you who've been trying to put your house prices in and bringing it back to life in a big way, hopefully in early August, and it will be therefore remaining permanent. And we're hoping to get the snowball rolling and get the number of exchange prices being reported in there, because exchange prices are actual prices, actual traded house prices. They exclude fall-throughs. They are only going to be reported once prices have actually exchanged. They're going to be coming from conveyancers and estate agents, as well as you guys, buyers and sellers, and landlords and tenants for rentals as well. And this is how I hope to help breathe life back into the industry, by undermining the overvaluing that's happening, causing the slowdown in transactions and making it harder. Because a lot of sellers, like the one I'm about to do the case study video on immediately after this, they don't want to overprice. They're not trying to be greedy, and they're still getting it wrong. But that's because all the information out there at the moment basically supports overvaluing. So here we've got, look at the difference between the sold or the sale agreed stuff and underneath it, the unsold stuff. This is, I think, still the most helpful thing to see what's actually happening in a market. What is the ratio of sold homes to unsold homes? And right now we are at 4-1. Okay. What is the median asking price of homes that are whether sellers are accepting offers, and the median asking price showing on homes that are showing as sold is £295,000. That's not the sold price, it's the asking price. And the average price, and this is why I want you all to understand the difference between average and median, because in the USA, they use median prices because it makes sense. Average price is not average in terms of your layman's understanding of the phrase average. They think typical. Well, it's not typical. Average prices are not typical. So the average asking price of stuff that's sell agreed is showing as £60,000 higher than the median, all right? And that's on the sold stuff. Now we look at the unsold stuff, which is much more property, 344,000. I would argue that's the largest sample size of any house price index at the moment. The median asking price of properties that are not selling, including everything on the market, new stuff, newly listed stuff, and old stuff, is 350,000. That's £55,000 higher than the median sale agreed price. Make of that what you will, educated viewers who can figure this stuff out once you're actually given the data. Make of that what you will, right? That's showing you a buyer's market. And the average asking price, and this includes stuff that's been on for ages, that's still sitting there unsold, is nearly £500,000. It's £117,000 higher, the average, than it is the median. And again, the median is the typical, okay? So this is why I want everyone to sort of ignore average prices. And again, no, that's a separate point. Right, so anyway, I hope that's helpful. Do we have any more questions that you'd like asking? That's if you want to go see that, just go to bestagent.news, the data I just showed you. Neil Phillips says, so many houses in South Wales are going on at auction in the first-time buyer market. Wow. And there's only one reason people put houses into auction, because they can't sell them on the open market. Someone else repeating their announcement. I'm glad, Timmy Hammer, thank you for watching this. I'm glad you're here, even though you're unsubscribing, and reminding me that you're unsubscribing, because if I didn't notice the first time that you want me to know that you're unsubscribing, I'll just have to live with my other 21,699 subscribers. But to be serious for a minute, I want you all to remember, those of you who can't afford a home or can't afford the home that you want, whether you're buying or whether you're renting, those of you who can't afford your rent, those of you who can't afford your mortgage payments, those of you who are living in an area that's suffering from a housing shortage, I want you all to understand that 100% of the reason that that scenario exists is because of people like Timmy thinking that politics isn't part of the reason, if not all of the reason. It is 100% of the reason. And people like Timmy going, oh, I don't want to talk about politics, is why the housing market hasn't changed. Because people like Timmy don't think it's important to make sure politicians understand that for those of us who want to afford the home we want, they're going to have to make changes. And if you look back, there's been almost zero successful policy making that improves the housing market. And Timmy goes, but just ignore it. But we don't want to hear about politics, Charlie. We just want to hear about housing. If you want to see housing affordability improve, and you think that's going to happen without us pressurizing politicians into making that happen, then you are delusional, and you are the reason why this problem will continue. So I'm not going to. I'm going to be going back to a lot more about responding to Rightmove house prices and responding to other indices and things that are actually helping people move a lot more. But after we totally squandered this opportunity at this election to change the housing market, I'm sorry, guys. It is this apathy and this misguided sense of, I've been having this argument on X with someone who just wants me to stop criticizing the government and give them a chance. That is exactly why you can't afford houses now, because that's what everyone has said after every election going back 40 years. Give them a chance, give them a chance, give them a chance, give them a chance. and new voters coming out every election. There's a whole generation of new voters who just can't be fucked to look at history and see why. And if you actually understood why you can't afford a home, you would be agreeing with me and going, enough. We cannot stand idly by, giving them a chance and waiting and seeing. There are millions of people in abject poverty and destitution who are there because of people like you saying that again and again and again, going back. And what's happened is we are witnessing the politicians just getting away with taking the piss and doing nothing. Oh, but Charlie, you don't know they're going to do nothing or not. I would be the happiest of all to be wrong. And if this new government can do anything to improve the housing market, nobody will congratulate them and cheer for them louder than me. But I am not stupid enough, having witnessed it for the last 30 years as an adult involved in the property market, to look at what's happening and go, oh, wow, this time it's going to be different. When actually there's nothing different. We're going to reform planning. They said it every fucking time. We're going to build more houses. They said it every fucking time. How can you be this stupid? I'm sorry to use the word, but if you go back, you'll see it. Every election they've said, we're going to build more houses, we're going to reform planning. And they haven't. And yet you haven't asked for any evidence of how they're going to do that. And what they're doing now is talking a good game, but it's not going to work. So Timmy, bye-bye. I'm here to help people and improve housing affordability and find a home for everyone. That involves, in the short term, helping everyone move house despite the government. I'm going to help remove friction from the house moving process despite the government. I'm going to help bring transparency to house prices despite the government. I'm going to help first-time buyers understand what overpaying means and how to avoid it despite the government. Okay? I'm not going to just stand by and wait for the government to wait and see. It's just gobsmackingly naive of anyone to think that. And unfortunately, Timmy, I have to pick up every time someone says this, because this is the reason we're fucked. This is the reason the housing market isn't working, because of people like you having the wool pulled over your eyes and not wanting to talk about politics, when politics is 100% of the reason we're in this. You might say, oh no, it's not, it's greedy investors. It is the political decisions that made it attractive for the greedy investors to do what they're doing, that allowed them to do it. There isn't one single aspect of the current housing market problem that is not the result of political decision-making, policy-making, and failure. Not one single part of it. Nothing. House building, buy-to-let mortgages, landlord situations, planning reform failures, NIMBYism, all those things, whatever you think it might be, immigration, whatever you think it might be, it is political failure. So if you want to talk about improving people's chance of getting on the housing ladder, improving people's chance of having a home that they can raise a family in, and you don't want to talk about politics, that's like saying, I don't want to talk about improving the housing market. So with all my best wishes, Timmy, off you fuck. Because honestly, not you, but you're at that attitude that you and millions like you are displaying, which is, I don't want to talk about politics, just want to talk about housing, is why we're in this fucking mess. Sis23 says, poor Timmy, I don't think he expected that. Timmy, it's not personal. I don't know who you are. I'm sure you're a lovely guy, right? I'm not trying to humiliate you. I'm trying to make an example of why your attitude is so mistaken. I mean, does anybody want to disagree with what I've just said? Nettie B says, should I still email an offer if the house is on the market with Rightmove, or do it on the phone? Never do it on the phone. Always do it by email. Please go and watch my videos on how to make an offer and why you shouldn't do it by email. But always, if it's a house you like and you want to make an offer on it, always make an offer. Never don't make an offer. Always make an offer. Teddy Boy Smith says, modern method of auction is becoming more common for flats in my area. Is the modern method of auction a bad idea for a buyer? Generally speaking, yes. You need to be a really experienced, knowledgeable, understanding the risks of buying property at auction, understanding the risks of the modern method of auction. There are some people for whom it can work, But if you are a first-time buyer, risky. Because you have to pay the fees, the auction fees on top of the house, the value of the property. Right. I promised I wouldn't go over half an hour. I promised myself on this. So, guys, thank you for watching. If those of you who are watching live, I will be back shortly with another video on this sellers situation. I kind of want to sort of focus on sellers this summer because I think buyers are having an easier time of it relative to sellers. So I'm going to go through this seller situation, which has very kindly been sent in to me. In the meantime, can you all, if you need my help in any way, go to my website, mhwc.co.uk. Someone asked about interest rates. Do I think they're going to come down in August? I don't know. They might not. It's not going to make any difference even if they do. I mean, if they do, you will hear the screams of joy from the industry, like suddenly everything's going to be fine, and you'll hear this misplaced optimism that's going to make any difference at all. It isn't. It's not going to lower mortgage rates that's already priced in, so it's just not going to make any difference, I'm afraid. So maybe they will, maybe they won't. I suspect not, but I don't know. Remember, if you are a buyer and you want to buy a home, start by making sure, before you book viewings on a property, make sure you've got your decision in principle from a lender through an independent mortgage broker, so that when you inquire about a property, you can say, I want to view this property. I've already got my mortgage lined up. You're going to get taken more seriously than other buyers. And even in this market, when nice properties come on, especially first-time buyer type properties, there is competition for them. You being a few steps ahead of the others improves your chances of getting the property. So make sure you've got that. If you don't have an independent mortgage broker, whole of market mortgage broker that you trust, please talk to my guys. Pop your details in there, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. If you really want to be ahead of the curve, make sure you got your conveyancing lined up as well. Again, if it's you versus another buyer who's got a mortgage in principle, but you've got your conveyancer already signed up and you've already gone through the process of getting registered with them properly, and the other buyer hasn't, you've just saved 2 weeks in the transaction time. Your offer is going to get taken more seriously than the other ones. And if you really want to put the icing on the cake, when you make your offer, make sure that you say, if you accept my offer, I will order my property search pack on day one. You can order it from this URL here, mhwc for moving home with Charlie.co.uk/property-pack. Any conveyancer that tells you that they can't accept it is lying. They are fully authorized, fully approved, they meet all the industry requirements for lenders. So anyone that doesn't want you to use your own search pack is just trying to sell you their own one. You know, by all means, just use your own conveyancers if you want to, but these are here as a backup. And if you're a seller, remember, always get your conveyancer first. Get yourself lined up with a conveyancer and get yourself contract ready before going to agents, because when you do go to agents, they will take you much more seriously. They will trip over each other to get your business. You will get a lower fee if you're contract ready than you will if you're not contract ready. And it costs you nothing extra to be contract ready, because you're going to have to pay these things anyway if you sell. So if you are a committed seller, be contract ready before you choose your agent. And again, if you don't have your own conveyancer lined up, never go cheap on conveyancing. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And do you want monkeys handling the legal transaction of your sale and cocking it up and letting the deal fall through? That's what happens if you go with cheap conveyancers, a lot more than if you don't. I work with one exclusive partner on conveyancing. They're an award-winning company. They cover the whole country, and you can talk to them by popping your details in down there. Otherwise, ladies and gents, boys and girls, and everyone else in between, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll see you on the next video. C'est la vie. Any tips on restrictive covenants, ask the agent, ask your conveyancer, and insist on an answer. Okay. Right, guys, gotta go. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Remember, always buy a home if you need money, you can afford it. Just don't overpay. Thanks, guys.